Thank you all for being here. This is one of the fun parts of my job, being able to start this celebration of something that's been worked on for many years here at St. John's. So let me thank you all for being here today. Our elected officials who are all here, who've spent many hours working on helping us secure this important grant. Members of the 1199 and the coalition, Lou Simon, our district leader. Dr. Ed Williams is here. All right. Very happy to see Dr. Williams, chair of our advisory committee, and to the employees of St. John's, I thank you for your support. To the folks who work day and night in conditions in our emergency room, our physicians, nurses, technicians, all of the community thanks you for what you do. I would be remiss if I didn't thank two people who, for the last 15 months, have met weekly, if not daily, to help us work through securing this grant. Dr. Natalie Schwartz, and Mr. Tom Farzetta. Our board chairman, the Right Reverend Lawrence Provenzano, is here with us. Thank you. I just want to give everybody a little history of, July is my 2-year anniversary here, so I'm here 2 years this month. Fabulous experience. And one of the first things that we did in August was the governor allowed us to resubmit the grant. It's called we call it a CRFP grant, and we like acronyms in healthcare, but it's a capital restructuring and financing grant. And the grants had two missions. One, to fund critical capital infrastructure for hospitals like St. John's, as well as to support the DSRIP program, which is, let me tell you what it is, Delivery System Reform Incentive Payment Program. And it's easier to say DSRIP. So we received notification of the grant in March of 2016 and have worked diligently since then to secure this grant, and we're notified a couple of weeks ago that we had received this grant. Our elected officials delivered an urgent message to Albany on our behalf. Our colleagues in 1199 and our community coalition worked to push the message by making phone calls, writing letters, calls from my team, visits from my team to Albany, to sign off and get this project started. And today is a monumental day for St. John's in doing this. I'm here because I know that this community needs exceptional health care, and we are going to give them that. They deserve it. I'm committed to working with my relationship with the community, with our elected officials, with our folks in Albany at the Department of Health, and we will continue to go up to Albany every couple of months to talk about the needs of the community in the Rockaways. And we are not only talking about the emergency room, we're talking about other things and other services as well that we need to upgrade to provide the care that this community deserves. So I am extremely excited that we are here today and everyone is assembled. And I would like to, I have to follow my notes here. I don't want to forget anybody. I want to introduce our elected officials, and I want them to make a few comments. And then we're going to have Chris Parker, our Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer, tell you a little bit about how the construction is going to go over the next year. So I'd like to first introduce to my left, Congressman Gregory Meeks. Congressman, thank you for your support.
Thank you, Jerry. And this is a great day, big day, important day for the hospital, but it's a really important day for all the residents of the Rockaway Peninsula. It is tremendous. And I need to first give compliments, of course, to the governor of the state of New York for his moving and making sure that grant money was put and produced here at St. John's. But by saying that, I know that the governor would not move if it wasn't for our state senators and our assembly, the people, Michelle and Stacy and Joe Adabo. Yes. 1199 and the coalition. The reason why I point that out is that when we're all on the same page, and we are generally on the same page, pushing together to try to make something happen, it happens, and it's important. And I know that, that's why when we talk about health care, it should be a right for everybody and not a privilege for a few. That's why it is important that we've got to make sure when we look at the Rockaway Peninsula, it was back in 2006, I think, when the Bergen Commission said that there should be only one hospital on the peninsula, and now there is only one hospital on the peninsula. And if you look at the people that it has to serve, a lot of those individuals would receive on Medicaid. And what we're talking about in Washington now is going back or cutting Medicaid, which would be devastating to the state of New York, so that we could not provide some additional funding so that our state government can do what it needs to do. That's where the teamwork comes in, and it's tremendously important. And so when you think about the emergency room services, both right here at St. John's, and the need of the community coming in, and fortunately, I believe under the Affordable Care Act, people stop using emergency rooms for primary care. We want to make sure that emergency room is used for emergency and not for primary care. We don't want to go back to that. But people deserve to come into a situation or to a building that is large enough. I think that, what was it, Jerry, 45,000 people came in an emergency room, and an emergency room that was really equipped for 15,000. So it is time. This is a project whose time has definitely come. And when you look at the number of projects that now will be able to be housed in this facility, where doctors can work back and forth, collected together to whether it's mental health or other kind of needs, it can all be done right here. So it is the work of the members of the hospital. Jerry, the 2 years that you've been here, you're right. I mean, you are one of the strongest advocates that I know, bringing us together, making people I can just tell you, in my office, when he needed letters, he said, I got to have a letter. I need it now. When can you get it out? He was honest. That's the kind of leadership that this hospital needs and deserves. That's what the kind of representation that this community needs and deserves. And we thank you and all of your employees for what you do and for how you advocate for this hospital, because by doing that, you're advocating for this community. So let me just stop there and to say to all of you, thank you for being here, because it takes an entire community to come together to make something like this happen, so that everyone knows that this is just the beginning. This is not something that we're going to just rest our laurels on and be happy just because we know that there's other things that we've got to get done, and we will. We will do it together, and we will make sure that people on this peninsula receive the quality health care that they so rightly deserve. Thank you, God bless.
Thank you, Congressman. The next person I'd like to bring up to speak is to my right, Senator James Sanders, Jr. Senator has been a great friend to the hospital and a great friend to me in my 2 years here. Great support for this community, and I'm very pleased that he's here today and can say a few words for us.
Thank you. It is important to say the junior because my father seems to get all the credit. Anything that goes right, they say James Sanders. Anything that goes wrong, they usually say James Sanders Jr. So I appreciate for a moment you throwing in that. This is a great day. The congressman is right in pointing that out, but it's a great day, and I'll take a personal note here. As a resident of the Rockaways who has used the emergency room, that one that built for 15 and seemed like all 45,000 were in it when I was trying to get it, use it. I know that we have to do better, and now by the grace of God and hard work, we have done better. Since success has 1,000,000 fathers and failure is an orphan, I'm going to take the point of privilege to point out one group that did work. One group among many that did work. And that's that coalition, that 1199 community coalition that week after week after week after week, when everybody else was wherever everybody else went, they met, and at the beginning it looked bad for the home team. No one believed in this to some degree, except they did. They kept fighting this and keeping it alive until others caught the fire, and I'm glad that that fire spread to Albany, and I believe that we can keep that fire going up there, because we're right. This is not the only thing that we need. There are other things that we are going to get. Let me announce to you that for the longest, we have been fighting to get all of our money back from Sandy. It seems that there was a discrepancy. We put in for a certain amount, and that check was much lighter coming back to us. The governor has alerted me and the rest of my colleagues that the difference will be made up, and more of that information is coming to you. There's no way I could have done this without the fighting Senator Joe Adabo, and of course we have some of the best assembly people right in back of us that without them it certainly could not have happened. So I'm glad that when we need this, we're going to have it. I hope that I will only visit it and won't need the facility anytime soon. But if I do need it, I want it to be state-of-the-art. I want it to have all of the bells and whistles, every single thing that I need and these people deserve. So don't stop fighting. If you haven't joined that committee, you need to join that committee. We're not done yet. We have a lot more to do, but the best is yet to come. God bless you all.
Thank you, Senator. At this time, I'd like to bring up another friend of St. John's, friend of the community, very supportive of me in my 2 years here. I can always call on him when I have a question or a doubt. Senator Joseph Adabo, Jr. Another junior. Good morning.
It is truly a great day, and today I'd like to talk about 2 points. One point is, of course, a point of appreciation, why we got here. So to President Jerry Walsh, to the entire family of St. John's Episcopal Hospital, anyone who's associated with the hospital, thank you so much. To the coalition in 1199, thank you for what you do. Again, that kind of work and that kind of effort has truly paid off. So to everyone at St. John's, thank you so much. And of course my colleagues, because it's truly a pleasure working with colleagues who want to work and do the people's work. So from the congressmen to the assembly members to the senators, councilmen, thank you so much. The second message is out of persistence. And I think President Walsh said it right. It's a partnership. Because while we are going to be immensely happy today truly the work is not over. And again, I want to thank the governor's office, but we, of course, will continue to work together because there is so much more work to do. You know, the days of taking people from the peninsula and off the peninsula for an emergency and taking them to Brooklyn or to the mainland or to Long Island for better care or for emergency purposes has to end. We need to treat our people here on the peninsula right here on the peninsula. And that has to happen. When every second counts for a person's life and well-being, that has to happen. And so we won't rest until that day occurs. Because being here in the most isolated part of New York City has to have some type of service that the other parts of the city enjoy. So we have to work toward getting to that point where people here on the peninsula stay here on the peninsula for quality, affordable health care. And so I look forward to working with everyone up front here and everyone over there to making sure we realize that day, one day when people of Rockaway have the health care that they truly deserve. Thank you so much, everyone. God bless you. God bless you.
Next, I'd like to bring up Assemblywoman Stacy Amato.
I don't know what to say. I'm not a junior. I hate following Joe Adabo. He's so good. Stacy Pfeffer Amato, so I do have two names. I am the newly elected Assemblywoman, and I am honored to be here with my colleagues of government. And what I learned in public service is I'm not going to speak long. But I'm going to tell you that I was born in this hospital. I think I can own that out of the group. Only 22 years ago I was born in this hospital. But what we've always had in this community was this hospital, and it stood through good times and bad times. And one thing I learned going to Albany is about working as a team. And since I was elected in November, I watched Jerry Walsh and his team consistently fight in any conversation of what they want. And it's not for themselves, it's for our community. And so to me, they are part of our community. And the hospital, the workers, the staff, the patients are also a whole community pulling together, teamwork. And I will say, and I will echo everyone else, about the St. John's Coalition conversation. When I heard that they talk every week, they talk every week. They go on. But it's about what we need until they get to an agreement of what the focus is, and then come back to Jerry and his team and talk about it. And that's true advocacy. And if I could take anything that I've learned from them and Jerry, is what I'm going to do as your Assemblywoman, and continue to fight as a team player with for this hospital. And I will say that when I got up to Albany, they'll say, we got to meet. It's about the hospital. And that's what we do. We work together. And I love my roots of being from Far Rockaway to show our toughness or our grit. When we want something, we don't back down. And the one thing I will say is I believe in the vision of Jerry and his team. So since I've been elected, we opened the Pediatric Center. We opened 129. We're doing this today, and I cannot wait to hear what rest in that plan is going to be for this hospital. So God bless us all. Thank you to everybody, every person in this hospital for making this day possible. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to bring up Assemblywoman Michelle Titus to speak.
I think I might be the last elected official, so I will be very brief because I think I'm already tired of hearing all the elected officials. But I do want to just say that I am truly happy to stand here and join with this awesome St. John's team that we have here, from our CEO, President, from our Government Relations, Renee, from all my colleagues in government, and of course our 1199 Coalition for the diligence, for the perseverance, for making this happen. Of course, and our governor, of course, first and foremost, in last year's budget, securing our money and making sure, as a team, all of our Rockaway delegation, making sure that money came here was a priority for us. So to finally see this vision come through, seeing this money actually wiggle its way through, seeing our emergency room finally see that improvement that we need is so important. But more importantly, just looking at this room here, St. John's also is one of our largest employers here on the peninsula. There's a lot of community residents here, so let's give some And it's evident that our commitment to ensuring that St. John survives, it improves, expands, and that we have quality health care here on the peninsula is a priority. But more importantly, of course, St. John's, our loved ones, our friends, our neighbors, this is life or death, making sure that we have access to quality care right here on the peninsula. And I just want to take my hat off to St. John's for the excellent job that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I'm going to go off plan for 1 minute because I think it's important that you hear a few words from our chairman of the board, Bishop Provenzano, and he's my boss. So.
Thank you all, and I promise I'm going to be brief, although one should know that you never hand a microphone to a clergy person. In the 8 years that I have been Bishop of the Diocese of Long Island, which is Brooklyn, Queens, Nassau, and Suffolk, what we're doing here today is a milestone. What has happened in this work of putting together the many-faceted groups that had to work together in a coalition to make this day possible is just short of a miracle. But it is a miracle that we ought to begin to count on over and over and over again, that in fact, bringing together people who have a common goal, a common purpose, recognizing that we put all kinds of differences aside in order to accomplish what is necessary for the care of God's people, particularly in this community, is a shining moment for me personally as the president of the board and as bishop of this diocese, but more importantly for what is happening in this community. I would like you for a moment to just understand this piece. This is exactly how we are supposed to behave with and for one another. So the outward and visible expression of our common purpose will be this emergency department and the work that will go on there. But the inward, the spiritual, the reality is, look around this room and look at the coalition of political leaders and community leaders and hospital staff and members of a board and all the administrators and the people of Far Rockaway being served. I couldn't be more grateful for this day. And I want to echo, as president of the board of trustees of this hospital, how grateful we are to Jerry Walsh and for the team that he's assembled for bringing us to this day as well. I want to say just one last thing then. This is not the culmination of a lot of good work. This is the beginning of a lot of good work. For the people of Far Rockaway, for the people that we serve here, and for the commitment and mission of this hospital. So thank you all. Thank you for your patience, your diligence, your tenacity, and your faithfulness. Well done. And I'm so grateful and humbled to be a part of this day. Thank you.
I also want to recognize Hirsch Parak. He is representing the governor's office with us today. Unfortunately, Councilmember Richards was unable to be here today, but I just want to acknowledge that Mercedes Buchanan, his chief of staff, is with us. Mercedes, thank you for being here. We've said a lot about the coalition, the coalition that meets on a weekly basis, and I would love at this time to have Lou Simon say a few words on behalf of 1199 and the coalition. Lou, thank you for
Good morning. A couple of weeks ago, I don't know that I was going to be here myself. As many of you might have read or may not know, Memorial Day, I had a little situation. My heart again. I was rushed to the hospital, and thank God I had a quadruple bypass, and I can't believe that I'm standing here today, but thank you God for that. 4 years ago, the coalition was formed. The coalition is represented by our elected officials, 1199 and the community. And I wear two hats in this community, although I'm not always recognized in my main hat. I am the Assembly District Leader in the 23rd AD, and I get paid $0. I do it out of love. And when we formed this coalition and I was asked to be part, it was an exciting time. It was something that I dreamed about, making sure that this hospital becomes state-of-the-art. And what I'd like to do is tell a little history of this coalition. We were having a hard time reaching out to speak with the bishop, who was the chair of the board. And for those who know what a pain in the neck I could be, I'm very tenacious. I don't give up. So we had a subcommittee. It was 4 of us, but 3 of us are here, and I want to speak to that. Dr. Ed Williams, who's a wonderful, wonderful man. Rochelle Guinness, who's a retiree and took on this. Thank you. The 3 of us went to see the bishop. And for those who know, I'm a pain. We were told you can't see the bishop. You have to make an appointment. We've tried. I said, I am not leaving. I'll be here overnight, whatever it takes, to see the bishop. And we sat. After an hour, we were served lunch. Then a very nice man came, Mr. Fardella, who's the attorney for the diocese, for the hospital. He came over and said, would you like to see us? Who are you? He told me his title. Let's go, folks. And that opened the door to the beginning. After that, we met with the bishop. The bishop came down. We facilitated community meetings. And we started. And we brought it together here. And let me tell you, the coalition, every Tuesday at 5 o'clock, we are on that phone.
Until 7.
Okay? Until 7, till 8, depends. And I will tell you, after a while, they gave me the opening number, so I should open, right, Deb? Where's Deb? And I was opening the call. Who's on? I felt like Steve Kramer. Who's on? And we're on. And I want to recognize the people who represent the coalition. And many of them have hats that they work for the electeds. Others we're just community people, but I want to call everyone's name. Sandy DeRemus, Amanda, the chief of staff from Stacy Feframato, Lisa George, Tavia Blakely, and I have to say one thing about Tavia. She was in Florida, and I was in the hospital. She called to make sure I was okay. I know her since she's a baby. I went to school with her parents. Love you. Jessica Leuna, Dan Brown from Melinda Katz's office. And I must speak to an angel who's not here today, and I don't know why. Our former Assemblyman, Phil Goldfetter, who stayed right on top of this. We must remember him. I spoke about Ed Williams, who is a saint in my book. God bless you, Dr. Williams. Rochelle, Marilyn Beckford, Adelaide Hilton. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about 1199 and their delegates who sit on, first of all, to one of the best guys I know, Steve Kramer, Executive Vice President of 1199. He said, we're not letting up. He always, every call, we're not letting up, we're not letting up. So Steve, I don't know where you are, but we love you. Pat Fry, thank you. Helen, Iona, Marcel, Matthew, to a world of knowledge, one of the best. Deb Friedland, we love you, thank you. Derek, great. Del Smitherman, Eunice Ford, and if I missed anyone, sorry. And Valerie West, also a district leader, thank you. I want to just say that Jerry Walsh, you're a breath of fresh air. You put together the best team we've ever seen. His door's open. He returns calls. Thank you. To the bishop, God bless you. We love you. And to one guy, I think, who wants to give me a kick in the butt, I have to tell. Hirschberry knows. At every event the governor was at, I said, I have to get Andrew's ear. Yes? Yeah. And I remember last summer, we were at the Lawrence Country Club. I didn't let him go about this hospital. At the county dinner, I didn't let him go. We must remember Andrew Cuomo is the best. He made it happen. So please remember our governor. With that, I'd like to say thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I thank you, God, every day. I thank the community. I thank the staff here. Because in 2013, when I was rushed in here, you saved my life. God bless all of you. Thank you.
I'm sure all of you now want to hear about, well, what's going to happen next with the emergency room. Let me just acknowledge a couple of other people. I think Lou acknowledged Valerie West, our district leader. Reverend Norman Whitmire, one of our board members, is with us as well. Patricia Marthone, 1199 Vice President for Nursing, is here. And Betty Leone is here. Thank you, Betty. So at this time, I'd like to introduce my right-hand man, someone that I've worked with in the past, and when I got this job, he was one of the first people I called when I knew I needed to build a team and knew that I really could count on somebody with great skills, great administrative skills, but great clinical skills as well. And that's Christopher Parker, our Executive Vice President, Chief Operating Officer.
Thanks, Jerry. After all that, was my remarks say to say good morning. I was a little afraid I'd have to say good afternoon. Before I get started and talk about kind of the process we're going to go through, I just want to make some other introductions of the people who are really, really important here. Those are the folks who provide the care and make the emergency department run. So first, Dr. Andrew Sama, who's our chairman of emergency medicine. Dr. Joe Zito, Dr. Joshua Moskowitz, physician leadership in the emergency department. Dr. Sue Dixon, our architect is here, Samir Rajelli. I'm sure he is anxious to put this file together. It's been open for a long time. So, Mike Finnessey's here, I think from the Shannon Group. That is the team that's going to be doing the construction. So thank you for joining our team. Charlie Ochapini, who's the administrator for And then last, I just really wanted to acknowledge, I'm sure there's some folks in the audience, the folks who work in that emergency department. That is a difficult department to work in. On a good day, it's tough. On a bad day, it's really, really tough. So you guys have hung in there. You've been patient. You really cared for this community under difficult circumstances, and you really deserve the largest hand of applause. So if folks folks don't know, and some folks are going to go on a tour here in a little bit, the first phase of this project is about 80% done. It's behind that wall, and kind of got stopped somewhere through the process. So we're very glad to be able to get moving on it again. In order to prepare for that, it's going to be about a 6-month project to finish phase 1, followed by a 6-month project to finish phase 2, which is remodeling the current space. And then there's a phase 3, which is remodeling and opening a primary care practice across the street. And I'll explain the connection to that here in a little bit. But going into it, we have formed our steering committee. Construction's underway. We have a variety of subcommittees, and we really want the folks who work in the department and frontline staff to help us design kind of the changes we need to make. So there is a committee on patient experience and culture. You know, I think we can acknowledge we've not always been able to offer the greatest patient experience just due to the physical constraints. So we want to make sure that when we open, we really do a great job. The patients who come here have a great experience. We have a subcommittee that's looking at our clinical processes just to make sure that everything we do is based on best practice, based on state-of-the-art care. There's a front-end and registration subcommittee, and that really is, let's face it, it starts when you get through the door. It starts with the information that we collect and through triage. So we need to make sure that when folks arrive, that we really start that process. I'd like to acknowledge all of our folks here from EMS and from the Fire Department of New York. Again, this is not always been. It's not always been the easiest emergency department to bring patients to as far as being able to, for us to take over care and get back in service. So it's really important that that front-end committee takes all that into account, and so when the EMS folks get here, we can take over care and let them get back to what they do. There's a community outreach committee. Obviously, through this process, we're going to do a lot of community communication, keeping people up to speed and up to date, getting feedback, and as we approach the opening, kind of making sure we're all connected there. A couple other materials management, just to make sure the way we supply and stack and do all that goes good. Information technology, healthcare is quickly becoming about the management of information as much as it is about clinical care, so we need to make sure that you know, how we use our information technology system. And then the emergency department really touches on every single department. So there's a subcommittee to look at the way the lab, radiology, transport, housekeeping, dietary, how all those departments interact with the ED, gets redesigned and gets optimized. And for all those departments who are here, thank you very much. ERs don't function by themselves. They function with a partnership with all of you. So you've heard our current ED is about 12,000 square feet. It was built way back when in the 50s or so. Probably could see 12, maybe 15,000 patients. We're up to 45. I expect that number will go up pretty significantly when we open. We'll probably be seeing well over 50,000 patients in the very near future. So with the renovation and the expansion, we're going to be able to double to about 22,000 square feet. We're going to have over 40 treatment spaces, 31 of which are private. And so any of you who've ever had care in the emergency room know that privacy is a premium just because of the crowded. So, you know, we will have private rooms where you and your clinicians and your families can have the kind of care you need. So that's really important. There are going to be 14 private areas also in a separate behavioral health emergency department. I think Jerry mentioned this is not just about an ED renovation. This is in support of the district goals. So there were really 6 goals that this grant was written around. The first was to strengthen access to primary care in the peninsula by adding 2 medical homes, 1 at the hospital campus and 1 nearby. So, like I said, across the street in the BOCES building will be a primary care practice with embedded behavioral health services. You know, our goal is for patients who come here, when they leave here, they need to be connected up to continuing care, that we actually do that for them while they're here. The second goal is to allow patients who come to the ED who don't really need the emergency department to be treated in a more appropriate setting. So if you come here and it's a long wait, busy day, we may be able to actually send you to one of the physician practices, get you seen quicker and get you hooked up to ongoing care. The goal to reduce potentially avoidable hospital use because of the lack of primary care services and poorly managed chronic diseases. So, you know, emergency departments are set up for emergencies, not to be the management of chronic conditions But a lot of people have been forced to kind of use our ER that way every time they have some kind of, change to their condition. So we really have been working aggressively, opening primary care practices around the peninsula, and a couple more on the drawing board. So I think that's really going to help. One of the goals was to help St. John's develop a stronger integrated delivery system that provides strengthened outpatient behavioral health and mental health services to the community. So if you actually read that grant, it is half about the emergency department, but it really is about our behavioral health system. A lot of our patients have behavioral health, substance abuse, and other issues, and we need to do a better job. And I think with this new facility and kind of looking at our model of care, we'll be able to do that. And then finally, to improve crisis stabilization and the physical plant need a better care for behavioral health. So, like I said, it's about a new ER. We desperately need that. The community desperately needs that. But it is also about taking care of this community in the longer term and hooking people up to ongoing care and making this an integrated delivery system across the peninsula. So again, thanks everyone for being here. Tom Farzetta, our AVP of Facilities, is going to come up and talk about how we want to conduct the tours for those who are going to go. And one more time, I'd just like to really say thank you to the folks who work in our current emergency department. We look forward to working with you.
Good morning, everyone. I think what we're going to do is try to see how many people we have want to make the tour. We'll try to get maybe no more than 20 at a time, and we'll be going in that direction towards the main entrance. So I guess we can gather over there by the exit sign, okay, whoever wants to go.